Hello, good morning. Check, sound check. Oh my goodness, I've missed doing my live so much. I haven't done a live since Friday. Totally going into withdrawal. What's going on over here? I think that nothing's going on over here. Okay, good. So it looks like I'm all alone for the moment. We'll just go ahead and get the ball rolling. I'll just sit here and talk to myself. It's fine. I don't mind. Hit your like button if you would be so kind and helpful. Mrs. Amir, hello, my dear. Yay, I'm not alone. How are you, honey? How is it going? Oh my goodness, I have so much I want to get off my chest. I could probably do well over 2 hours today, but I'm not going to be able to because I have to get to my kids to an appointment. And so I probably have maybe an hour and just slightly over an hour. So we'll try to do a longer one mañana. And let's see. Please make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, consider just subbing up. It helps a lot. And a lot of the channels, it's not just me, a lot of the true crime channels and the, kind of the political channels that aren't MAGA, we all get our subs canceled on us all the time. So I don't think it's sure it could be people subbing and unsubbing, but we all know what it is. Come on. It's good to keep an open mind, but it's also good to not be confused. Okay. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it. Turn on your notification bell to ring. And everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All of my videos are made for YouTube. It's an infotainment platform. So I think we're good to go. What do you think, Mrs. Amir? And yeah, we're getting closer to the time that my friend is going to be going to South Africa. So yeah, what she asked is if your address is a post office box because of that thing that she said that you guys don't really have mail service to houses the way we think of it here in the States, but I figured that you knew what you were doing. So the main thing I wanted to talk about today, a couple of things. There's like a handful of things, but let's just try to narrow it down. I wanted to read to you a comment that I already have pulled up. I'm good to go on that. A comment that somebody made on one of my Epstein videos. I think they made the comment maybe like 8 days ago. So the video is probably like 4 weeks old. Sorry for the dog barking in the background. And the comment is insane. And I'll share it with you. So we'll get to that, and I won't have to describe it until after the fact. We can discuss. And then my crazy theory about how, I've had this theory that perhaps the 2020 election was rigged. And so when Trumpster Fire lost that election, he was like, no, that's impossible because we rigged it just like we rigged 2016. So I know that they're lying. I know that they're cheating me out of my cheating. Crazy idea, but it's possible. And that's one of my theories. I have an even better theory, an even crazier theory, and I'm dying to share it with you. So let me go ahead and spit it out so that I don't keep you hanging and get distracted, and then I'll read your comment there, Mrs. Amir. This is my crazy, crazy theory. Because we know what a difficult toddler Donnie is. Let's say that his MAGA crew said, yes, boss, we got this. We'll make sure that you win, right? And they were all so fed up. This is just my fantasy, okay? To be clear. They were all so fed up with his crap. And they realized too that he was beyond reason, that he wasn't willing to listen to any of his advisors. He only wanted sycophants. He only wanted loyalty. Let me get that dog to quiet down. Hey, Coco, quiet down. Okay. She's just like, no one's telling me to shut up, so I'll just keep barking forever. It was probably a squirrel or something out the window. Anyway, where was I? And I have allergies too, so my apologies. It's going to be a little harder to concentrate, and hopefully I won't be sniffing or having to blow my nose, God forbid. If I do, it'll definitely be off camera, not to worry. But I do have my cup of Joe. So maybe his loyalists just were kind of done with him, and so they told him, yeah, like, we rigged it. You've won this election. Don't worry about it, boss. Just quiet down, calm down, right? And then when that didn't happen and Biden won in 2020, he lost it, right? He lost his mind because he's like, no, my goon squad cheated. We know we won. How are they cheating us cheating? So he went completely apeshit, ballistic. Oh, I'm 30 seconds away from being free and clear of, at 7 minutes, you can kind of drop little poop bombs like that, and it's not a big deal, but maybe I'm close enough. Who cares? Anyway, trying to get this idea across to you. So as time unfolded, the people in his inner circle that essentially lied to him, because you can always trust a cheater, right? You can always trust a liar. I literally thought that. I had a best friend once who I knew was a pathological liar, and I thought it was hilarious the way they told lies to everybody all the time. And I didn't think that they lied to me. I really didn't. And then when I started catching the lies, it wasn't until we were like besties for like 10 years. This was a friend from college, and it was very sad, but I was like, how did I delude myself into thinking that they would never lie to me, that they just lied to everybody else? Anyway, we had a falling out. So sad. Where was I? The liars, the cheaters that lied to Trump and said, yeah, we rigged it. You won. Oh, wait, how did that happen? I have no idea how that happened. And so maybe some of these loyalists that misled him on the 2020 election, maybe they're in his cabinet. They're still his posse, his crew, his goon squad. I think that's the best way to describe those folks, the sycophants. And so maybe they are scrambling so severely to make sure that he doesn't ever find out that they misled him, because we all know he'd go batshit crazy. He'd release the flying monkeys. They'd probably all be, getting in single car accidents or falling down flights of stairs or other things, hashtag other things. So that's my crazy theory, is that his goon squad told him that they rigged the 2020 election and that they've never, ever, ever admitted to misleading him, and that now they're scared more than ever. So they're more loyal than ever. They're scared that if he ever finds out that they were involved individually in misleading him, off with their heads. Do you think that's a crazy enough theory? I can't believe I thought of it all by myself. That's a little saying we got from our oldest when she was 2 or 3, all by myself. No, it's a house address. They do door-to-door deliveries too, but if it's posted via the post office, I need my ID to collect it from the post office. Okay, gotcha. Interesting. So yeah, I'll have. So she doesn't live there; she just visits. So yeah, I'll have her drop it in the mail. I'll get notification from the post office that I have mail. Awesome. Right. Okay. She kind of mentioned that to me. I just didn't understand it all because, me, just not a world traveler. In my fantasies, I'm a world traveler, but in real life, I'm a homebody. I have a vast knowledge of the USA and then a little bit of knowledge beyond that, but barely. Have to keep it real, right? Okay, so let's read this comment that somebody made because to me it all ties in together. This was a comment, like I said, somebody made this on a Epstein video that I made several weeks ago. And the comment is Bing Tonks is what their handle is. Are you ready? It's pretty wild. Virginia Giuffre's claim of being, quote, a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking, unquote, are thoroughly exhausting. Virginia Giuffre's claims of being a lifelong victim of SA and trafficking are thoroughly exhausting. She was a cunning con artist who deceived the public with the help of her corrupt attorneys. The media is using Prince Andrew as a scapegoat and deliberately avoids discussing any of her other fabricated accusations against innocent men and women. The FBI has pending cases against them. I think them is Virginia and her attorneys. Although she's not alive anymore, we know that, and I'm sure they know that too. And they are not done with the fake Prince Andrew photo. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are working with hundreds of others at the DOJ and other agencies to ensure that the truth is made public. U.S. federal prosecutors have already branded Virginia Giuffre as a, quote, money-hungry opportunist, end quote. Wow, Mrs. Amir, I am very curious your impressions on that. To me, it is just mind-boggling that this being Tonks would come into my comment section and spend a lot of time with this, unless, of course, this is like copied and pasted from a whole bunch of other videos. That's probably what it is. My first thought is somebody like lady who's not a lady, Harvey, the ex-girlfriend of Andrew, who I'm sure is paid to go and try to rally for him in these forums and in interviews and such, or that it's AI, but there's no misspellings. It's all very, the sentences are really well put together. So I don't think it's AI. I think it's a paid troll. Because I can't imagine a troll that would be so protective of Prince Andrew and the other accused traffickers. Plus, they're pretty well informed. Like they have, they have their information. So this was my response a few days later. I'm proud of myself because typically with a comment like that, I'd either, well, I want to say that I tend to delete those types of comments, but I try not to. I try to leave them up so that people can see what other people are saying. I just don't want to spread the false information, which I think it's all crap. Or I just don't really respond to it, or I just say, yeah, screw off or something like that. I don't generally put a whole lot of time and effort, but I try to think of it as an opportunity to, in this case, be really sarcastic. I'll just read it. It's an opportunity to open up a discussion, right? I said, wow, thank you for enlightening me. Poor Prince Andrew being framed as a sick freak by that meanie. Thank goodness for superhero psychos like Bondi and Crazy Eyes with a Z. I hope the prince can continue living his wholesome, innocent choir boy existence now that that wicked witch can no longer hurt his holiness. So that's the comment. And I just think it's mind boggling, in the event that it's a paid troll, that they would come to my teeny tiny channel. But a lot of people don't look at the size of the channels. It's not the size, it's the magic within it, right? It's not the size of the wand, it's the magic within it. They don't even notice that kind of thing. They're just looking for, or they probably have their artificial intelligence pull up all of the videos that are relevant to what their crusade is. So, you know, um, that was an awesome clapback. Well, thank you, Mrs. Amir. Like I said in my last video, I try not to be sarcastic because it can be hard to detect sarcasm at times, but I thought that couldn't possibly go undetected. I took a chance. And, I didn't want to put that much time and effort into it, because that's the whole point of trolls, in my opinion, is that they're just trying to slow you down or derail you and get you off course so that you don't continue down your path of truth and destruction of the lies. That's my opinion. So, waste, fraud, and abuse. And if I hear this president of ours, one of the most powerful humans on earth, say, it's not fair, treated unfairly, one more time, I guess I can't say if I hear him say it again. The next time I hear him say it, I'm just going to roll my eyes. I mean, what can you do? Does he not sound like a freaking toddler? It's so unfair. We've been treated so unfairly. I've been treated so unfairly. They've been treated so unfairly. So good for the one of the most corrupt sheriffs in our country, who is convicted of, I think, sexual assault and red rum. This was the Virginia sheriff who was just found guilty and then pardoned over the weekend by Trump stir fire, because, he's being so unfairly treated. Just like the crazy judge in Vegas who raised tens of thousands of dollars to create a memorial for a fallen police officer, and then took that money and bought plastic surgery and paid for, used part of it to pay for her daughter's wedding. One sec. Coco, stop. Coco, come in here. Come in here, baby. Quit being so annoying. Oh, my high maintenance princess dog. Come here, baby. All right. Come here, sweetie. Sit. Relax. Lay down. She likes to come in here to get away from the other two crazy dogs. Just chill out, bug. But she's all wound up. I think there's got to be squirrels out there. Squirrels and bunny rabbits. Not to mention the birds, and then, other canines and kitty cats. There's all kinds of fun stuff out the window. Maybe we should get shutters so she can't see out the window. Okay, chill out, baby. Coco wants mommy's attention, LOL. So yeah, I have some dog food in here that's for one of the little dogs that didn't finish her breakfast, and Coco gets to eat her leftovers, but she hasn't eaten enough of it, so I've set it aside to try to give it to her in a little bit. And Coco knows it's in here, so now she's like pacing around. She can't relax. No, it's not about attention. It's a food thing. Coco, chill out, baby girl. Come here. Come here. She's so wound up. And maybe that's why she's extra wound up out in the rest of the house, too. Okay, so the big boobed Vegas judge was pardoned. She was found guilty. I don't think she'd been sentenced yet. but I think she could have been sentenced to up to 145 years for her crimes. Anyway, I don't have the names of these two pardoned individuals written down because I don't want to give them airtime. But we all know who's going to be pardoned next, Mrs. Amir. I don't know if you probably heard of the whole George Floyd thing, Derek Chauvin thing that happened 5 years ago, Memorial Day. So Memorial Day was yesterday. So we just passed the 5 year anniversary of it. And my guess is that Chauvin is going to be pardoned. However, sort of like playing with fire. I mean, but maybe we know that Trumpster Fire loves playing with fire. This is why I call him Trumpster Fire, because I think he wants to declare martial law. So if he can get a whole country to riot the way the Los Angeles riots happened with the Rodney King situation, that's probably what he's going for in the event that he tries to pardon Chauvin. But I think part of it too is that they just love to own the libs by talking about such things and then cracking up when the libs get all bent out of shape over their stupidity. Oh, yes, Mrs. Amir says, I remember the Black Lives Matter movement initiator. Right. There were several, there were a handful, but his was certainly the straw that broke the camel's back, especially since there was videotape of the red rum from start to finish. And I was sent a copy of a link for the videotape that the firefighter made that was from a slightly different angle than the videotape that was circulated widely at first. And I was very stunned when I saw from a slightly different angle. It made the whole thing even worse, in my opinion. And I shared it with a handful of people. I would warn people that it was much more grotesque and grisly than the video that was circulated widely. And some people that I knew didn't even want to see it. They're like, no, I'm okay. I can't take anything worse than what I've already seen. But I thought it was important to see it. And since then, it has been more widely circulated. I will try to see if I can find that link and put it in the description. But the videotape that the off-duty firefighter made that was from a slightly different angle, if I'm remembering accurately, it portrayed very clearly how intentional it was and how there were a handful of people there begging the police officer to stop and saying, you know, you're killing him. And then there was that Asian officer that was like his lookout, like a watchdog. And I don't know if people know the backstory, Mrs. Amir. Chauvin and Floyd worked at a Mexican restaurant together for over a year. Floyd was in charge of security inside. He was the bouncer. He was the supervisor of all the bouncers. And then Chauvin was the security supervisor for outside of the club. And they had, I think it was a Tuesday night thing, this long standing party night. And they also printed counterfeit money at this Mexican restaurant. So Chauvin and Floyd worked together for, I think, roughly about 18 months. And like I said, they were both the supervisors of the inside security and the outside security. And I could be getting them switched around, but I think that that Chauvin was the outside security and Floyd was the inside bouncer. Anyway, when all this came out, it didn't really come out in the mainstream media. And the restaurant people tried to say, well, they didn't know each other, you know, because one was inside and the other was outside, you know, as if people aren't going in and outside, right? It's sort of like Crystal Turner in the Gabby Petito case, not knowing the guy Adam that worked at the same McDonald's that she was a manager at. It's like that's a whole nother can of worms. So we'll just try to stay focused on this can of worms. Because, like I said, a lot of people don't know the thing about the employment. A lot of people also don't know the thing about the funny money or the Play Doh and the production of it at that club. So I think it's a restaurant bar, but they had like this big club scene. I think it was Tuesday nights. Like for many, many years, it was like a hot spot in town. And then, um, the whole thing with Floyd was kicked off by him allegedly using a counterfeit 20 at that little convenience store where he was buying cigarettes or Red Bull, whatever he was buying. I'm not sure, can't remember what he was purchasing, but he used a 20, and then the cashier called the police and said that it was counterfeit. I don't know that it's ever been verified that that's counterfeit. I don't know that it's ever been verified that that was him, that that was the bill that was in his hands. Like he might have, I think there's a possibility he could have used not a counterfeit 20, and then the cashier could have switched them out, because it's my suspicion that they were waiting for him to come in. He shopped there all the time, and that Chauvin needed to eliminate him because of things that Floyd knew from the club that they worked at together. That's the backstory that some people, it's common knowledge with people who have looked into the case, I think. But let's just say that's all a conspiracy theory, because, we don't know for sure. We'll probably never know. And Mrs. Amir says, I can only imagine no connection and no foul play as law enforcement best lines to use for cover ups. Right. And that Chauvin didn't know that he was taking this guy's life when, did he have the knee on the neck for 9 minutes or 12 minutes? The knee was on the neck for roughly 10 minutes, give or take, solid, without movement. And I mean, the man like peed himself, crying for his mommy. Floyd was huge. He was, I want to say 6'3", 6'4", maybe even 6'5". He was like a quasi, almost a professional athlete at some points in his lifetime. Probably football, maybe basketball, but he was buff. And he was a pretty good looking man, especially from the standpoint of just his physical appearance and being a bouncer, being a tough guy. Then you had Chauvin, who was maybe 5'8" if he's wearing high heels. And he's just this skinny little runt of a white nerd, like a watered down wet rat. I don't know. I think Chauvin was jealous. We'll just go with that. Just like I think freaking Scammy was jealous of Kylie Rodney. Just like I think Amanda Knox was jealous of Meredith Kircher. Just like I wonder if the two surviving witnesses in Idaho 4, Bethany and Dylan, weren't jealous of their roommates. Jealousy, man, it's bad stuff. We know that Brian Laundrie was jealous of Gabby, I think, for just being sociable, likable, intelligent, knowing how to use a computer. That guy didn't know how to use a computer. Brian Laundrie did not know how to use a computer. That's pretty wild for a youngster in this day and age. Anyway, we're going to try to stay focused. How do I stay focused when there's so many crazy things I need to spit out? So we're talking about racism, right? So this might be a good place to put in. I'll put a link to maybe more than one video of my least favorite human on earth at this point in my life, I think, is Caroline with a K. I knew I hated her. Just, she absolutely disgusts me in every way, shape, and form. That's why I used her disgusting face on the thumbnail as she's like primping in front of the camera. It's hilarious that she's that stupid, that she's primping in front of the camera. She's so vile. So over the weekend, she was at a speaking event, standing behind the Trumpster fire, and there was a law enforcement officer standing next to her who was not white, Mrs. Amir. And she freaked out, and she was making these faces and pointing, and then the law officer was gone. And she was all happy. Like I said, I'll put the links to the videos in the description. It is disgusting. And and then there was even this one, I think she's a TikToker, a content creator who loves to make videos where she pretends that she's Caroline with a K. She dresses up like her and totally mocks her. And she did a little skit about that. I'll put that one, and I'll put the link to that too, because it's extremely revealing. Extremely revealing. I mean, this is a woman who in her 20s was sleeping with this guy who's almost 60, sleeping with him before they tied the knot. She had that baby last July, 3 days before what I think is a fake assassination attempt of the Trumpster fire's ear getting scraped in Pennsylvania. And she ended her maternity leave 3 days after she gave birth to that baby because she thought that Trump was more important than her freaking baby. Like, that's disgusting. A 3-day-old baby, that does she not know anything about the bonding time? I mean, the first moments of a child's life or any creature's life are the most impressionable. And it's probably why the maternity leave is usually at least 6 weeks long, because that first 6 weeks is the most important for bonding. And it's also the most important for getting colostrum, which is a liquid that comes in mother's milk that builds up the immunity system that there's simply no substitute for. So if you can spend that first 6 weeks with your baby, nursing your baby, if you're having trouble nursing, hopefully you can pump and at least get the colostrum into your baby that way. But the skin on skin contact is so important. Anyway, she found it more important to rush back to work after 3 days, but she had the baby 7 months after the wedding. I think they got married in late December, and the baby was full term, not early. So it takes more than 7 months for a baby to gestate. It takes closer to 10 months. For anybody who doesn't know, in our culture, we say 9 months, but it's really 40 weeks. 40 weeks. So that's more like 10 months. Anywho, Caroline with a K, racist AF, completely vile, just putrid, absolutely putrid. All she does is lie and get extremely defensive and then go on the offense and attack people. What a great life. Your whole life, you're living a lie. Your whole life, you're living a lie. All right. Oh, I got good news. Mrs. Amir nursed little guy until 2. Oh, you're such a good mama. Someone in the court latest about Idaho for insulting, that insinuating that BK might be innocent, saw a comment saying they should have looked into Steve G more. Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to say look into Steve G more, but I think looking into the police department more, looking into the roommates more, looking into basically everybody that was there, everybody that was surrounding the victims, like the people that they were hanging out with that night, like Jack D, like the people that were at the bar where they were hanging out, James Fry, Adam, Jackass, like the people at the grub truck. Wasn't was his name Iman? That guy, the chef who juggled fire. It's not Ivan. Einan, that's his name. Um, that Einan guy who went on to the camera to do a lot of interviews, too many interviews, right? Plus, he's a chef, meaning that he knows how to handle a sharp edged object. And plus, he was there at the grub truck while they were there. Oh, not to mention that guy, Joe, the big guy, Joe. And it looked like he took a picture of them. And big guy Joe, he made a bunch of videos. Like, didn't he do like some live streams on YouTube talking about the whole thing? I wasn't suspicious of Enan or Joe at first. I thought they were just there and they were just trying to help. But it's my belief that that those girls were being gang stalked that night. They were totally being gang stalked at other points in time as well. And maybe Koberger was a part of that because I think they were getting gang stalked by law enforcement, which there's evidence of that when they go to their house for a noise complaint that's a fake noise complaint when there was no noise complaint. And they admit that on body camera as they're approaching the house. But yeah, they were getting gang stalked. So yeah, I think looking into all of the gang stalkers and Steve G, I just don't know. It's so hard for me to be suspicious of a family, but it's always the people that are closest to the victims. And there is a lot of weird stuff with the family, but I'm not ready to say more than that about the G family. Even though there is weird stuff about the G family. That's all I'll say about that. Um, but yeah, the whole Idaho 4 case is crazy. Honestly, Mrs. Amir, I am thoroughly surprised that Koberger hasn't been Epsteined by now. And I'm just putting that out there because I'm hoping that that'll jinx it and that'll never happen. I hope that there's full justice for the crimes that were committed. Enan Harsh, right? Exactly. I was thinking of Harsh Reality. Thank you. Yeah, I was able to nurse all 4 of my kids, fortunately. Very, very fortunately, because not everybody can. Sometimes there's physiological reasons why people can't. Even if it's not just that their boss needs them because he had a fake assassination attempt. And maybe that was part of the cover up, was to make it look like such an emergency that she had to come off of her maternity leave. Like, what is she going to do to protect him if that was a real assassination attempt? How is her being there going to do a damn thing? I think she was just running from the hardest job she's ever had, because being a parent is by far and away the hardest job in the world, and nothing can prepare you for it. And she was so young. I mean, I think she was 27 maybe by the time she had the baby. That's not that young for motherhood, but it is that young to be married to somebody who's like 60. And she might have had to hang out with him if she wasn't at work. That's probably what it was. It was just a way to get away from him. Okay, so back to the notebook. So this was the good news I started to say, Mrs. Amir. If you've heard about this big, beautiful bill that the president is trying to pass through Congress that's over 1,000 pages. Like, who the F makes a bill that's over 1,000 pages? Because it's all of the laws in one giant turd to try to push through things like no excise tax on tanning beds. And what was that other small little minor thing? Oh, that courts have no power, judges have no power to hold people in contempt of court if they don't abide by a court order. Just that one little detail, just shove it in. Okay, so I thought in my second to last video, so at the end of last week, I was like, this bill can't pass. It'll be the end of the world if it does. And then the next day I came on and I was like, OMG, how did it pass and I not know it when I did my live yesterday? Because apparently it had already passed the morning before, but I was like keeping tabs on it up until the minute that I did my live. So I'm like, how did that slip by me? But this is how it slipped by me. It only passed the House of Representatives, and barely, by one vote, right? It still hasn't passed, but I think that they try to be confusing by design. So then they can say, oh, look, it passed, when it hasn't yet passed, because it hasn't gone through the Senate, and it has to go through the Senate. It's not expected that it'll pass through the Senate, and I don't know when exactly that's happening this week. I am convinced that politics and law are by design made to be confusing so that us lay people can't follow along. So thank goodness that it hasn't passed yet, but I fully expect whatever Donnie wants, Donnie gets, because he threatens people. He's so freaking gangster. And when are the RICO laws going to bite him on the behind? But, you know, this freaking immunity, this presidential immunity, and then the one little tooth that can get him with his protection, the Teflon protecting him of the presidential immunity, the one little strength that can be utilized is a judge holding him in contempt of court, which, you know, he's violated mass court orders already. And him and his goon squad, they just ignore the court orders. And there hasn't been contempt of court ordered yet, but I fully expect that there will be. So oh, except that there won't be if the bill gets shoved through, right? Vile, absolutely vile. Yeah. So one of the most major violations of the court orders, of course, is when our government deported a bunch of suspected gang members in the middle of the night, and a judge said, turn the airplane around and bring them back. Basically, like, you're not exporting anybody. And they ignored him, right? And then there's been court orders to facilitate bringing Mr. Garcia back, ignored. But this is where I'm trying to segue this into the fact that a woman was detained, arrested. She was Australian, and she was coming to visit the States for a couple of weeks. She was from Australia, and the ICE officers determined that she had too much clothing in her luggage, that she couldn't possibly have been packing for just a 2-week trip, that she was planning on staying. So they detained her and arrested her for suspicion of gaining unlawful entry to the US. I mean, a lot of people pack heavy. And this is a white woman. This is a woman from Australia. You would think that they wouldn't even care so much with somebody. I mean, not that they should be that way, but you know what I'm saying. Ah, that's nuts. I'll try to put a link in the description about that too, since I don't have a lot of the details and I'm just kind of sketchy in some of my information here because, like I said, there's so much of it. Okay, let's jump into the part, going back for a minute, the part about the Virginia sheriff that was just pardoned for SA and Red Rum. He happened to be from Virginia. I think the eastern part of Virginia. Also, the last congressman from the House of Representatives was from Virginia. I have his name in my notes, but I don't think I'm going to try to look for it. And then Jessica Aber, the attorney, I think she was the attorney for the 13th district, or maybe the Republican or the representative. He was a Democrat from the 13th district, one of them. Anyway, all three of these people are from Virginia. So Jessica Aber passed away February this year, 2025, in her sleep, age 43, from alleged natural causes. And then the 75-year-old Democratic congressman, also natural causes. And then I guess we could say that the the sheriff from Virginia, that he was pardoned due to natural causes. I'm being facetious. But I wanted just to say that Virginia is kind of considered the playground for Washington, D.C. You know, Washington, D.C. is so tiny, it's like a postage stamp. It's just this itty bitty District of Columbia. And before you know it, if you're in D.C., before you know it, you're in Maryland or you're in Virginia. If you cross the river, you're in Virginia. If you go the other direction, any other direction, you're in Maryland within like 5 minutes if you're in a car. I mean, you don't even know that you've crossed the state line. But typically Virginia, you know, they'd have those bumper stickers that would say Virginia is for lovers, because that's where politicians would go basically with their side pieces. They would go to Virginia and have their fun, and it would go undetected, especially if you had a crooked sheriff. If that's my point. My point, what I'm trying to say here is that Donnie is probably trying to do this sheriff a favor so that the sheriff can do him favors when he has trouble that he needs cleaned up. Certainly the point with the Vegas judge who got her breast augmentation paid for with the funds that she raised for creating a statue of a fallen police officer. Certainly that message is loud and clear to all lawmakers that if they are a loyal sycophant, that they can do whatever they want and it'll be forgiven and they'll be pardoned. And then that way Donnie has all of these people in his pocket. And that's really what it's all about. You know, a lot of what we see with all of this crookedness is money. It's power and control. Money is power. And the best power that you can have over people is the blackmailing power, because we all know you can't buy silence, you can only rent it. So That's what these people aim for. That's what Diddy would aim for. That's what Epstein would aim for. That's what I think Donnie aims for. Having dirt on people. And then the people that have dirt on him, say like Ghislaine Maxwell, he's never going to say anything derogatory about her publicly. All he'll say is, I wish her well, when she's been convicted of being a pedophile and trafficking children. It's crazy. It's crazy. There's so much there. How on earth can there be all this Epstein files, Epstein files, Epstein files, and then Donnie just says, "Oh, well, I quit being friends with him in the," what does he try to say, that it was like the early 90s, or no, maybe like the early 2000s is when he tries to say that he cut off from him, which, even if that were true, they were still then best friends for 15 years, right? But we know that that's not true, that they continued to be tight all the way up until the bitter end, and that Donnie used Epstein airplanes for his campaign. When he was campaigning, he used the Lolita Express in the 2016 campaign, and then in the last campaign he used a different Epstein jet, and they try to cover that up. But all you have to do is Google Trump campaign Epstein plane, 4 words basically, Trump campaign Epstein plane, and you will find out that, yeah, it wasn't Lolita Express that was used for this last campaign tour. It was Lolita Express used for the first campaign tour, and then it was a different Epstein plane that he used in this last campaign tour. And then they try to defend themselves, him and his sycophants, with, "Oh, well, we didn't know. We didn't know where the plane was from." As if you're going to put your presidential candidate on an airplane that you don't know everything about. Give me an effing break. Give me an effing break. Like, that's nonsense. Have there been any proof of life of Garcia yet? Well, Mrs. Amir, that's a really good question. That might be why they haven't brought him back, is because it's not possible. You probably remember a few weeks ago, I had those satellite photograph images of the detention camps that made them look like concentration camps, and I don't even know what those images were. I honestly don't know if they're fake or real, but what it looked like is that they were exterminating people. So it looked like they had piles of human bodies, and I should have said trigger alert. I don't know if those were real. I don't know why those were like circulating um, our media, our social media, and then they just went away. I figured that they would get either determined to be fake or determined to be real, but no, they just disappeared, which is really frightening. That makes me more suspicious. I always overpack for every trip I take. Don't we all? I overpack so badly that usually, if I have time, if I pack a few days in advance, I can take everything out and I can count, like, okay, how many shirts did I put in there? How many pants did I put in there? How many swimsuits did I put in there? And then when I see that I have like 50 of each for a 5-day trip, I can say, okay, maybe I can just take 5 of each. I'm exaggerating, of course, but you know what I mean. Like, you just shove all your favorite stuff in your suitcase, and then you're like, no, this is too much. Especially if you're going to a place where you can actually do laundry. But even if you can't do laundry, like, I can basically whittle it down more than once if I have time. If I don't pack until the last minute, then I'm screwed. Then I totally overpack. because yeah, you don't want to underpack. That's no fun either. You don't want to have to buy things. You definitely don't want to wear dirty things. Good to see you, Annabes. Hello, hello. I'm not going to be able to stay on too much longer because I've got to take my kids to an appointment. But I'm so happy to be here and so happy that you guys are here. Thank you. How are you doing today? And how is it getting back into the groove of being at work again? I would imagine maybe hard unless you were keeping your nocturnal schedule while you were on your recovery leave, your medical leave. You've been doing it long enough. You probably did keep your nocturnal schedule, and then it's not that bad getting back into the swing, right? Oh, it's hard physically. That is hard for your knee, hard for the nocturnal schedule, hard for both. And yeah, it's rough when you have that nocturnal schedule. It's harder for your body to heal, as you well know. Are you doing the comfrey tea? I don't know if that'll help, but I would think that it might. Comfrey tea in your belly button, right, Mrs. Amir? Seriously. If you did like little tea bags of comfrey, you probably could do that because it sounds like there's a very real connection to, um, like with the aromatherapy, putting it in your navel. That was a hot tip Mrs. Amir had for me last week that I'd never heard of. Hard for the knee. I will try the comfrey tea. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I had knee trouble that I was supposed to get surgery for, and I was scheduled for the surgery like 6 years ago. I canceled it last minute because I got a second opinion, and the guy said, if the longer you can postpone it, the better the treatments will be, the better the surgery will be, the better the recovery will be because of the momentum of the science around knee surgery, that every year that you postpone having it, you're going to be miles further along in the medical technology. So I took his advice. That was 6 years ago. I basically was able to get it back to full speed with swimming and with yoga, but I can't run. And that's something that I have loved to do my whole life. And sometimes, like recently, I've been like, well, maybe I can, maybe I could try to go for a run. And every time I've done that since I've been like over maybe 40, 45, it has very negative consequences for my knees. So I try just to hike. I do run a tiny bit, but only if I'm on a track and I go really slow. So it's like same speed as like fast walking, but the track so that it's like the all weather. So it's rubber rather than asphalt or pavement or uneven ground. It's very flat and safe. Excuse me. But yeah, when you're on your feet, which as a nurse, you probably don't get to sit down too much on your shift. Hopefully you do, because when you're on your feet, that's the worst for your knee if you have a knee problem. Oh, I had to get the surgery. The meniscus was extremely torn and there was free floating pieces of it and a piece of bone. Oh, that's gross. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, if you had free floating pieces of it, that's heavy duty. And yeah, as a nurse, I'm sure you knew that you had to have it, that it wasn't like optional at that point. Um, but yeah, what I've heard is that knee surgery is harder to recover from than hip surgery, even. So, and hip surgery is hard to recover from. So just baby that knee, right? Do everything you can. You probably use some of that tape, the physical therapy tape that all the kids use these days when they're doing their sports. That stuff is supposed to be really awesome. And you can like look up YouTube videos of how to apply it. Oh, but you have your physical therapist too. So they probably are working with you on that. Yes, knees are worse. but you're doing your PT. So that's what's super important. And it's great that you got it done. It's great that you got it done. Yes, that is the magic tape. I've never used it, but yeah, it seems like it's a great idea. I see other people using it all the time. So, what else do I want to say before I have to wrap up? Um, I just get really sick of that uh, cliche that Doge and the Trumpster fire continue to throw around on a daily basis. The waste, fraud, and abuse. If that's not the pot calling the kettle black, I don't know what is. Like waste, fraud, and abuse is what they say why they had to cut government aid for everything under the sun. Waste, fraud, and abuse is what I think Doge is, and it's what I think our Trumpster fire president is. Waste, fraud, and abuse. I still believe that the system was rigged and that this last presidential election that there was a lot of cheating going on, and that cheating has been revealed, especially with that one YouTube channel, the Election Truth Alliance, where they're breaking it down scientifically, all of the stats, all the polling. That stuff is really confusing, which is why I think that they can get away with it, and why they can't get away with it as well as they thought they could, because you have to be super scientific to know how to cheat the system and then have it not show up in these graphs that they do. So check that out. Yes, very, very true. I still can't believe we are here. I know. And when is it going to stop? Is it going to stop? Do we really have to live 4 years like this? Because when it first happened, like the night of the election, I figured that there was cheating, and I figured that there was pretty much nothing that could be done about it, because my thought process, my opinion is that Vladdy is behind it, and Vladdy is trigger happy and deadly AF, and Trumpster Fire wants to be in bed with him. I think that Trumpster Fire is Vladdy's operative, and that he is doing everything that he can to destroy this country for Vladdy. That's what I think. Financially, making our country as unstable as possible, trying to make the world as unstable as possible so that Vladdy can gain more power. And then over the weekend with Donnie saying how all of a sudden Vladdy's gotten all bad, and all this time he's been so good and they've had such a great relationship, and now Vladdy just won't stop unaliving people, and Trumpster Fire doesn't understand. Just like, well, then why don't you post every day on your Truth Social, Vladdy, stop it? Every day, Vladdy, stop it. Vladdy, stop it. Vladdy, stop it. Vladdy, stop it. Like a little kid, and maybe after 1,000 times, Vladdy will be like, oh, okay. It's actually a Kids in the Hall skit. If you are familiar with the Kids in the Hall, I haven't brought them up in a long time. It's a skit they wrote where it doesn't have a beginning and it doesn't have an end. It only has a middle. And it's like two kids that are kind of play fighting, except they're adults. And they're like, stop it. No, you stop it. No, I have to stop you. No, I must stop you and your revolutionaries. It's really cute. And it's just funny. That's the whole video, is stop it. No, you stop it. No, I must stop you and your revolutionaries. So when Trump put that post up a couple weeks ago, Putin, stop it. I was just like, I'm not buying it, dude. Like, he's just putting on a show. He's trying to say to people, look, I'm trying to get Vladdy to stop. Over the weekend, when he was questioned about this, he was like, he keeps killing people, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Okay? I don't like it. Next question, please. It's just like freaking reality TV show is what it is for Presidential Apprentice. Can't take it. Okay, I am going to have to wrap up so I can get on my merry way, and hopefully I'll be able to come on for a live every day this week. Thank you so much for being here, ladies and Coco. Let's see. Bees, please follow Dr. Barbara O'Neill for some remedies to ease and speed up your recovery. She's great. Oh, I'll have to check out Barbara O'Neill. I'm going to write that down. I've never heard of her. And let's see. Thank you, Mrs. Amir. Anna B says, yeah, let's highlight that one. And I'll look at my notes one last time before I sign off and say goodbye to my dear people. Yeah. I think the one last thing I want to say, there's a lot, but RFK Jr. is also in those Epstein files and on the airplane logs, which is what I figured. I figured that RFK Jr. is. I also figured that Hegseth is. That's my opinion. And that's what makes these people have to, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. The frenemies, they have to keep a close eye on each other. This is why I think Hegseth, he can do any stupid crap he wants. He'll never get fired because he's got too much dirt on Donnie. And Donnie's got too much dirt on him. In my opinion, in my conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly, right? Something like that. What does Rich Lux say? In my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. I knew I was forgetting part of it. I know it doesn't surprise me at all, Anna Bees. I had just come to that suspicion last week about RFK Jr. With all of his misogyny, with him helping his cousin Michael Skakel skate away from Martha Moxley's bludgeoning that Michael Skakel served time for, that Michael Skakel, Kennedy wrote a book saying that he was framed. And then also him sticking by, is it William Kennedy Smith? Yeah, I said his name was Michael Kennedy Smith last week. We all remember William Kennedy Smith in the trial from the early 90s with the victim that had like the blue dot over her face. So RFK Jr. has been very supportive of him. The quote unquote self-unaliving with his second wife, Mary Richardson, is very, very suspicious. And I'm also suspicious that he got together with her when she was 15 and he was 21. And that statutory, there's no statute of limitations on statutory in most states. And if that's true, he was probably having an affair with her all the way throughout his first marriage. And there's that great quote of hers when they were getting married, because he also proposed to her before he was divorced from his first wife. And then he said to her that he didn't believe in polygamy, that he really wanted monogamy. And she asked him, then why have you been doing it for the last 10 years? So what was she referring to? Was she referring to a relationship that they were having together while he was still married? I don't know. But they do say that they met, Mary Richardson and RFK Jr., when she was friends with his little sister and she was only 15 and he was 21. And then there was a quote that she said in her affidavit in their court papers for their divorce. I think it was 2 months before she passed away, where she said that she'd been burdened by the Kennedy family secrets from the time that she was 15 years old. So just because she was friends with the sister and met him, how could that burden her with family secrets from the time that she's 15, unless there was a lot more involvement? And yeah, she was 15 and he was 21. When they met was around the same time that Martha Moxley was bludgeoned in her own front yard in 1975, and Martha Moxley was 15. So that's the exact age that he was when Martha Moxley had that happen. And he was very tight with that whole Skakel family of the cousins, 7 siblings. Michael Skakel was the youngest of the 7. 6 of them were boys, just 1 sister, and they were all rowdy AF. The mom had passed away from cancer. The dad was a raging alcoholic. The kids were all raging alcoholics. And RFK Jr. hung out with them a lot. So, they were probably the oldest at that time was like 23, and then Michael being the youngest at 15. But RFK Jr. was tight with the whole family, the whole Skakel family. Skakel Kennedys is what people usually say, because the dad, Russ Skakel, and then the mom, Russ Skakel is Edith Skakel Kennedy's brother. So it gets really confusing, but let me just clarify this before I wrap up. So the mom of the Skakel family, I'm not sure her like pedigree, because people get confused and say that she was a Kennedy. She was not a Kennedy. The father, Russ Skakel, was married into the Kennedy family basically because his sister, Ethel Skakel, married RFK Sr. So she was the widow of RFK when he was assassinated. And I'm pretty sure that RFK Jr. was 15 when his father was assassinated. I'll have to look that up and fact check myself, but I'm pretty sure that he was that age. That's wild that he would then 6 years later get together with a 15-year-old when he's 21. But that would make sense if he suffered that type of trauma and loss at the age of 15. I'm pretty sure that's how old he was. If he was 21 in 1975, that means he was born in 1954, which would make him 15 in 1969. Is that right? And let me look on my phone real quick. Is that the year that RFK Jr. passed away? I bet it was. Let's see. And then we'll call it a day. RFK Sr. June 6th, 1968. All righty. Close. So, when you're crunching the numbers and the dates, he could have been 15. Let's see. I'm going to write that down. June 6th, 68. Is that what it said? And then, yeah.
What's the player?
I'm wrapping up and then we'll get going. Let's see. Why is the phone being slow all of a sudden? It's being cursed. Stop it. No, I must stop you. A problem repeatedly occurred. Stop with your stupid problems. I could use my... Oh, man. Hateful. Hateful, hateful, hateful. Stop it. Oh, it probably just needs to be shut down. I'll just double check myself later on that. I just wanted to look at like the dates of when like RFK's birthday, because like I said, I'm pretty sure I've looked into it before and that he was 15 years old when it happened. But if he was a year off, close enough to make my point, right? Um, she is a banned Australian doctor due to educating people about alternative remedies and not pushing for pharmaceuticals. And see, that's the whole thing with RFK Jr. is his alternative medicine stuff, which I'm all about alternative medicine, but I'm also all about oh, I think my battery went dead on my phone. That's the problem. That's crazy. Because like I said, I keep it charged all the time. Okay. We're just gonna wrap up. But yeah, uh I like to weave together alternative medicine and basically modern medicine. I think both are really good. There's a lot to be learned from both, and I think that they can work really well combined. So I'm all about acupuncture, aromatherapy, herbal medicine, music therapy, art therapy. I mean, all of these things can be wonderful. And music, like the vibrations of music help your body heal and help your heart heal. And we all know this instinctively and intuitively listening to music. But there's a lot to be said for music therapy and a lot to be said for any of the expressive arts. I mean, you have to express yourself. And Anna B says, I believe that too. Mrs. Amir says, absolutely, 100%. All right, ladies, I'm going to wrap her up. Thank you so much for being here. Love and light. Have a fabulous rest of your day. Make sure you drink your water and eat your veggies, eat your protein, and hasta mañana. Thanks again for being here. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Love and light.